The phone buzzed on my polished oak desk, a relentless vibration against the Chicago skyline view from my office. It was my accountant, David. His voice was tight, stripped of its usual warmth. "Marcus, we have a problem. A big one." I leaned forward, the leather of my chair groaning. "What is it, David?" He hesitated. "There's a default notice for a loan I don't recognize. A commercial loan for $500,000, secured against Thorn Development assets." A cold dread washed over me. "That's impossible," I said, my own voice a stranger. "I haven't taken out any new loans." David's next words hit me like a physical blow. "The signature on the paperwork, it's yours, but the beneficiary company, I've never heard of it." "The beneficiary company, what was it?" I asked, my voice dangerously low. David cleared his throat. "Apex Horizon Ventures." Ice flowed through my veins. Apex Horizon. My brother Liam had pitched me that exact name a year ago. A can't-miss venture he needed me to bankroll. I'd refused, telling him I built Thorn Development on steel and concrete, not on wishful thinking. That was always the difference between us. I was the older brother, the one who worked, who built. Liam was the charmer, the family's golden boy who could talk his way into anything and out of everything. He had our father's dazzling smile and none of his integrity. While I was pouring my life into creating a legacy, Liam was burning through his inheritance, chasing shortcuts and resenting my success. He saw my company not as something I'd bled for, but as his personal safety net. I always knew he was capable of being reckless, of asking for too much. But I never thought he was capable of this. This wasn't just asking for a handout. This was a calculated heist, a betrayal aimed at the very foundation of my life. I hung up the phone, the silence in my office suddenly deafening. Apex Horizon. My brother. It wasn't just a betrayal. It was the culmination of a lifetime of this. A lifetime of me building and him taking. Our childhood was the blueprint. When I was 16 and hauling drywall for a local contractor, saving every penny, Liam, 2 years younger, was perfecting his charm, convincing our parents that his summer should be spent networking in Europe. My father, a man of quiet principle, would just sigh, but our mother, she was Liam's greatest champion. "He has a different kind of ambition, Marcus," she'd say, a gentle rebuke in her voice. "You can't expect everyone to get their hands dirty." I remembered the dinner a year ago, at our parents' house. Liam, dressed in a suit that probably cost more than my first car, cornered me by the fireplace. He was electric with excitement, pitching Apex Horizon Ventures. "It's a sure thing, Mark. A tech incubator. We just need the seed money. With the Thorn name behind it, investors will be lining up." I kept my voice low. "Whose name, Liam? Yours or mine?" His smile faltered for a second. "Ours, of course. Family." "My company's name is Thorn Development Group," I said, looking him dead in the eye. "It's built on tangible assets, not on buzzwords and synergy. I'm not leveraging decades of my life's work on your get-rich-quick scheme." The charm evaporated, replaced by a familiar, ugly resentment. "It's always about you, isn't it? Your hard work, your empire. You hoard it all, and you can't stand to see me succeed on my own." "Then succeed on your own," I'd shot back. "Get a loan. Put up your own collateral." He laughed then, a bitter, hollow sound. "You know I can't do that." He meant his trashed credit, a mess of his own making, that he somehow pinned on my refusal to bail him out of every previous disaster. Our mother swept in, sensing the tension. "Boys, please. Liam, tell me more about this wonderful idea." She looped her arm through his, leading him away, leaving me standing alone by the fire. She always ran interference, always smoothed things over, ensuring Liam never had to face a single real-world consequence. Now, sitting in my office, the memory was razor-sharp. He couldn't get a loan, so he got one anyway. He couldn't use his own collateral, so he used mine. He had taken my refusal not as a boundary but as a challenge, and our mother's coddling hadn't just enabled him, it had convinced him he was entitled. He didn't just steal my money, he stole my name. And he did it believing, truly believing, He had the right. A cold, hard certainty began to form in my gut, displacing the shock. This time, there would be no quiet sighs from my father, no interference from my mother. This time, Liam would finally face a consequence. One of my own design. My first call wasn't to my mother or my father. It was to Sarah Jenkins, my corporate attorney. Her specialty wasn't just law, it was demolition. "Sarah," I said, my voice flat, "I need you to pull every document related to a company called Apex Horizon Ventures and its connection to Thorn Development. I also need you to find the loan agreement. I'm sending you David's initial findings now." There was no surprise in her voice, only a quiet readiness. "Consider it done, Marcus." While Sarah went to work on the legal front, David became my digital bloodhound. For 2 days, my phone was a constant stream of his clipped, furious updates. He unearthed the digital breadcrumbs Liam had been too arrogant to cover. A series of wire transfers from the fraudulent loan account, not to vendors, not to build a business, but to luxury car dealerships, high-end travel agencies, and a down payment on a penthouse condo in a building I knew for a fact had a 2-year waitlist. Liam hadn't even bothered to create the illusion of a legitimate company. He'd treated my life's work like a winning lottery ticket. The real gut punch came from Sarah. She got a copy of the loan documents from the bank, a smaller, hungrier institution on the city's fringe. The signature was a near-perfect forgery. My stomach clenched as I realized how he'd done it. A year ago, I'd co-signed a car loan for our cousin, a gesture of goodwill. Liam had been there at the family dinner where I signed the paperwork. He must have swiped the spare copy I'd left on the hall table. He'd been planning this for months, waiting, studying my signature, practicing. "There's more," Sarah said over the phone, her voice grim. "The loan officer's name is Peterson. Young guy. I did some digging. He's been posting on social media for months about his new mentor in the tech investment space." "Let me guess," I said, the coldness in my chest solidifying into something sharp. "His mentor's name is Liam Thorn." "Bingo," Sarah confirmed. "It looks like Liam played him perfectly. Flattered him, took him to expensive lunches, paid for with your money, by the way, and sold him a story about being the silent partner in Thorn Development, finally branching out with my blessing. He didn't just forge my name, he warped my reputation, using the trust I'd built over 20 years to grease the wheels of his own fraud. The final piece fell into place when David discovered that the corporate seal used on the documents was an older version, one I kept in a desk drawer in my home office. An office Liam had been in just 2 months ago, supposedly to pick up a vintage watch our father had left for him. He'd been all smiles, complimenting my home, my success. All the while, he was robbing me. I sat there in the dark of my office, the city lights blurring into a cold fire. The shock was gone. The anger was gone. All that remained was a profound, chilling clarity. He hadn't just stolen from me. He had used every symbol of our family, of my trust, as a weapon against me. The watch from our father, the signature from a family favor, the home I'd opened to him. He'd poisoned it all. Sarah's voice cut through my thoughts. "Marcus, we have everything we need to press charges. The DA would have a field day with this." "No," I said, my voice quiet but absolute. "Criminal charges are too impersonal, too quick. He won't face a judge. He'll face me." I looked at the calendar on my screen. December 10th. Christmas was just over 2 weeks away. Our mother was already planning her annual Christmas Eve dinner, the one sacred family event Liam never missed. A slow, cold smile touched my lips for the first time in days. It wasn't a smile of happiness. It was a smile of purpose, the venue for his. My mother's call came 2 days later, her voice a cheerful melody of blissful ignorance. "Marcus, darling, I was just on the phone with Liam. He's closing a huge deal. He said his investors are just thrilled. You must be so proud." I leaned back in my chair, picturing her in her warm, sunlit kitchen, completely unaware of the rot festering in her perfect family portrait. "I am, Mom," I said, my voice even, smooth as glass. "I can't wait to hear all about it." "Oh, wonderful. Then you'll definitely be here for Christmas Eve? Your father and I are so looking forward to it. The whole family together." "Wouldn't miss it for the world," I assured her. This was the key. Maintaining the illusion of normalcy was paramount. My calm was the camouflage for the ambush. An hour later, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. It was a picture of a diamond-faced Rolex on her wrist, resting on the steering wheel of a brand-new Maserati. The caption read, "The perks of being the boss. You should try it sometime. Men good." He didn't even have the courage to send it from his own number, a ghost taunting me with my own money. I didn't feel anger. I felt a surgeon's focus. I saved the picture and forwarded it to Sarah. My next call was to her. "The plan is set," I said, cutting straight to the point. "We're proceeding with a civil lawsuit. Fraud, breach of fiduciary duty, conversion, hit him with everything. I want a temporary restraining order freezing every account and asset tied to Apex Horizon Ventures and to Liam Thorne personally." "A civil suit can be a long, drawn-out fight, Marcus," Sarah warned. "He could tie this up in court for years." "He won't," I said with certainty, "because we're not filing it on Monday morning. We're serving him on December 24th at 7:30 p.m. sharp." There was a pause on the line. "Where?" Sarah asked, her voice tight with understanding. "My parents' house." "In the middle of Christmas Eve dinner." I specified. "I want a professional process server, someone who won't flinch." "He is to be handed a lawsuit demanding repayment of $500,000, plus damages and legal fees, in front of our entire family. In front of our mother." Sarah was quiet for a moment. Then, "I'll find the perfect person for the job." I hung up and looked at my calendar. The days leading up to Christmas felt different now. They weren't a countdown to a holiday. They were a countdown to a detonation. And I would be the one holding the trigger, my finger perfectly, patiently, still. Sarah called me back the next day. "I have our man," she said, her voice stripped of all emotion, a mirror of my own. "His name is Arthur Vance. Ex-military police. He's been a process server for 20 years. They call him the Ghost because he's quiet, invisible until the moment he needs to be seen. He never gets rattled, never gets emotional. He just delivers the package. He's perfect. Tell him the dress code is business casual," I said. "He needs to blend in before he strikes." "Already done," Sarah replied. "He understands the need for precision. 7:30 p.m. on the dot. He'll be waiting a block away until he gets our signal." The signal. That would be a simple text message from me, now. The following days were a masterclass in deception. I spoke with my mother twice. She chattered on about the menu, about the seating arrangements, about the wonderful surprise Liam had promised he was bringing. "He sounds so happy, Marcus," she sighed, her voice thick with maternal pride. "It's like he's finally found his footing. You were right to be tough on him." It clearly motivated him. I felt a bitter laugh rise in my throat, but swallowed it down, replacing it with a carefully constructed warmth. "I'm glad to hear it, Mom. I'm looking forward to celebrating with him." Every word was a lie, a carefully placed stone in the path leading to his ruin. While I played the part of the supportive older brother, David and Sarah were assembling the arsenal. David's emails were a staccato rhythm of Liam's profligacy. The Maserati from the text? Bought in cash, 2 days after the loan cleared. The penthouse condo? He'd put down a non-refundable $500,000 deposit. There were receipts from designer stores on Oak Street, folio numbers from 5-star hotels in Aspen, wire transfers to offshore accounts. He wasn't building a business. He was setting my legacy on fire and dancing in the ashes. Sarah compiled it all into a single damning document. She sent me the final draft 2 days before Christmas Eve. It wasn't a lawsuit. It was an obituary for Liam's life as he knew it. Over 100 pages of evidence, meticulously cataloged. Bank statements, forged signatures blown up for comparison, screenshots of the loan officer's fawning social media posts, stills from security footage of Liam entering my building the day my corporate seal went missing. The final page was a summary of claims: fraud, forgery, identity theft, conversion. It demanded the immediate repayment of the full loan amount, plus punitive damages that brought the total to $1.5 million. It also included the motion for an emergency restraining order, freezing his accounts, his assets, and placing a lien against his new penthouse before he could even move in. The ghost wouldn't just be serving a lawsuit, he'd be delivering a financial guillotine. The phone call I was expecting came the afternoon of the 23rd. Liam's number. He didn't even bother with a hello. "Heard you're coming to Mom's tomorrow," he said, his voice slick with smug confidence. "Good. We should talk. Apex is taking off faster than I even imagined. I'm already looking at Phase 2. I might have a small piece I can cut you in on, for old time's sake." The audacity was breathtaking. He was offering to sell me a piece of my own stolen life. "Is that right?" I said, keeping my voice level. "Yeah. I'm closing another round of funding after the new year. Big players. But family first," he said, the magnanimous billionaire in his own mind. "I'll tell you what, you come to me tomorrow, hat in hand, and maybe, just maybe, I'll let you invest. 100 grand. A chance to get in on the ground floor of the next big thing." I pictured him, probably leaning back in a chair I paid for, in an office I paid for, looking out at a view I paid for. "I'll think about it, Liam," I said. "I'll see you tomorrow." I hung up before he could reply. He hadn't just confirmed my course of action, he had poured the concrete around it. There was no man there to save, no brother to redeem. There was only a parasite that needed to be cut away before it killed the host. Christmas Eve arrived on a wave of frigid Chicago air. Snow began to fall in thick, silent flakes, coating the city in a deceptive blanket of purity. In my closet, I bypassed my usual suits and chose a dark charcoal sweater and gray trousers. I wanted to look relaxed, familial, part of the scenery. As I fastened my watch, I caught my reflection in the mirror. My face was calm, my eyes clear. There was no anger, no hesitation. There was only the cold, quiet resolve of a man who had been pushed past his limit. My phone buzzed on the dresser. A text from Sarah. "Our advance is in position. Waiting for your signal. Good luck, Marcus." I didn't need luck, I had a plan. I picked up the gift I'd bought for Liam, a simple, elegant leather-bound journal, and a very expensive pen. I wanted him to have something to write with when he was documenting his fall. A final, silent piece of irony. Driving to my parents' house, the familiar streets of my childhood looked different, like a set for a play I was directing. I passed the park where I'd pushed him on the swings, the school where I'd defended him from a bully. These memories weren't warm, they were evidence. Evidence of a lifetime of him taking and me giving. A debt that had finally come due. I pulled up to the curb behind a familiar new Maserati, its pearl-white paint glowing under the streetlights. Liam was already here. The stage was set. The actors were in place. I took a deep breath, not of anxiety, but of anticipation. The show was about to begin. I walked through the front door into a wall of warmth and the scent of pine and roasting turkey. The house was a Christmas card come to life, glowing with fairy lights and my mother's impeccable taste. She rushed to embrace me, her face beaming. "Marcus, you're here!" Liam was just telling us the most wonderful news. There he was, standing by the fireplace, a glass of champagne in hand, holding court with my aunts and uncles. He wore a cashmere sweater that cost more than my first month's rent, and a smile that could sell sand in the Sahara. He caught my eye and gave a small, condescending nod, a king acknowledging a courtier. "Mark," he said, his voice booming with false bonhomie, "glad you could make it. Come, have a drink, we're celebrating." Celebrating what? I asked, my voice dangerously neutral. The future, he declared, raising his glass. To Apex Horizon, and to me. Our mother clapped her hands in delight. He's secured another round of funding, can you believe it? He's a natural, just like I always said. Dinner was an exercise in supreme self-control. I ate my mother's perfectly cooked prime rib, listened to the cheerful chatter, and watched my brother perform. He was magnificent. He spun a fantasy of late-night strategy sessions, of ruthless negotiations with venture capitalists, of a tech empire rising from the ground up. He used words like synergy and Bell's disruption, and my family, who wouldn't know a stock option from a soup spoon, hung on his every word. My father watched him with a quiet, unreadable expression, while my mother looked at him with pure adoration. Liam, emboldened by the rapt audience, turned his attention to me. You know, Marcus, he said, leaning back in his chair, a smirk playing on his lips. I've been thinking, now that things are stable, I might have an opening on my board. It would be good for you, teach you a thing or two about real risk, real reward, get you out from behind that desk. The table fell silent. Everyone looked at me, waiting. The offer hung in the air, a perfect, glittering piece of bait. It was the ultimate condescension, offered in front of the very people who had enabled him his entire life. This was the moment. I met his gaze, holding it for a long second. Then, I gave a slow, deliberate smile. Under the crisp, white tablecloth, I took out my phone. My thumb hovered over the screen for a heartbeat before I typed the single word and hit send. Now. I picked up my wine glass. That's a generous offer, Liam. We should definitely talk about it. 30 seconds later, the doorbell rang, a brief, polite chime that cut through the cozy atmosphere like a shard of glass. Who could that be at this hour? My mother murmured, dabbing her lips with a napkin. My father rose to get it. A moment later he returned, followed by a man no one knew. He was of average height, in a simple dark coat, but he moved with an unnerving stillness. His eyes scanned the room once, found their target, and never wavered. He walked past my father, his steps silent on the antique rug, and stopped directly behind Liam's chair. Liam twisted around, his smile faltering into confusion. Can I help you? The man didn't answer. He simply extended his hand. Liam Thorne? He asked, his voice flat, devoid of any emotion. Yes? You've been served. The man placed a thick, document-bound stack, nearly 2 inches thick, on the polished mahogany table beside Liam's plate. It landed with a soft, final thud that seemed to suck all the air out of the room. The ghost, Arthur Vance, gave a curt nod, turned, and walked out of the house as silently as he had entered. For a moment, there was only the sound of breathing. Liam stared at the stack of papers as if it were a venomous snake. His face, flushed with champagne and triumph just moments before, had gone a stark, waxy white. What is this? My mother whispered, her voice trembling. Marcus, what is going on? Liam's hands shook as he reached for the cover page. His eyes scanned the title, Thorne Development Group versus Liam Thorne and Apex Horizon Ventures. Complaint for damages, fraud, forgery, identity theft. His head snapped up, his eyes wide with panic, finally locking onto me. The charm was gone, the arrogance was gone. All that was left was the terrified, cornered boy I remembered from our childhood. I met his gaze across the ruined landscape of our family dinner. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. You wanted to be the boss, Liam, I said, my voice as cold and clear as the winter night. These are the perks. The silence was a physical thing, thick and suffocating. It shattered when my mother shot to her feet, her chair scraping harshly against the hardwood floor. Marcus, what is the meaning of this? This is our family dinner. You are ruining Christmas. Liam's face was a crumbling facade. He frantically flipped through the pages, his breath coming in ragged gasps. This is a joke, he stammered, his eyes darting around the table for an ally. It has to be. Mark, tell them it's a joke. I leaned forward, my voice level. Is it? Turn to page 34, Liam. That's a copy of my signature from our cousin's car loan, right next to the one you forged for $500,000. Or maybe you'd prefer page 52? It's the wire transfer for your Maserati, time-stamped the day after your loan cleared. My mother's hand flew to her mouth, a choked gasp escaping her lips. My aunts and uncles just stared, their forks frozen in midair. "You can't prove anything!" Liam shrieked, slamming the document down. "This is slander! It's insane!" "I can prove everything," I said, my voice cutting through his panic like a scalpel. "The junior loan officer you mentored, the corporate seal you stole from my home office, the offshore accounts, it's all in there. Every dollar, every lie, every betrayal." He abandoned all pretense of bravado, turning to our mother, his voice cracking, reverting to the terrified child she had always protected. "Mom, he's trying to destroy me. He's always been jealous of me." She spun on me, her eyes blazing with a fierce protective fury. "How could you? How could you do this to your brother? To this family?" Before I could answer, my father spoke. His voice wasn't loud, but it landed with the weight of a judge's gavel, silencing the room instantly. He wasn't looking at me. He was looking at Liam, his expression one of profound, weary disappointment. "He didn't do this to you, son," he said, his gaze hard as granite. "You did this to yourself." He then turned his tired eyes to my mother. "And we let him." That was it, the final, devastating blow. Liam wasn't a charming entrepreneur anymore. He was just a common thief, exposed under the warm glow of the Christmas lights. He began to sob, not tears of remorse, but of pure, abject terror. I stood, calmly placing my napkin beside my plate. I looked at Liam's broken form, then at my mother's face, a canvas of confusion and dawning horror. "I didn't ruin Christmas," I said, my voice low but carrying to every corner of. Was serving my brother with a lawsuit at Christmas dinner taking it too far, or was it the only way to make my family finally see how serious his fraud was?